Well, thank you, Senator Hoeven. I think what Senator Portman and I thought when the president said that for these 3 trade agreements to be voted on, we had to have trade adjustment assistance. We looked at the negotiated package. It wasn't exactly what any of us who signed that letter would have negotiated, but we just frankly said, look, these are the jobs that are the low-hanging fruit of job creation if we get these 3 trade bills, and we're willing to look at the Baucus Camp negotiated TAA and support it. In a way that the White House can sign it and send these agreements up. Senator Hoeven mentioned, as he and I and all of us were sitting in the House chamber last week, Thursday night, listening to the president's remarks, when he said we need to pass these 3 trade agreements. That next sentence didn't occur. Just like the week in August where the president was on his bus tour, and every single day on the bus tour, he said, the Congress can do something right now that would create more American jobs if they'll pass these 3 trade agreements. And every time he said that, even though I was hearing it on the TV, I couldn't help but talk back to the television or the radio and say, well, we can't pass them unless you send them up. You're absolutely right, Mr. President. This is one of the easiest things we could do to create jobs, but we have to have the agreements from you before we can vote on them. Don't tell the American people that all we have to do is pass the bill when you know that you have to send the bill up before we pass the bill. And we need these 3 agreements. As Senator Portman's pointed out, we need more agreements, but that's not really happening right now. You know, we do need the president to have the authority that I think all of us would be more than willing to give him, but that's not part of this package, the trade promotion authority that we'd like to see extended into the future. But right now, we have 3 agreements that have been negotiated for a long time, and whether it's the Missouri and North Dakota beef industry, or the Missouri and Ohio pork industry, or the grain industries that we all are impacted by, there's a real opportunity here, and these markets are waiting for us. Just to look at one state, just to look at our state, since 2002, exports have increased more than 3 times faster than the state domestic product has grown. And so for those who say, well, exports cost American jobs or Missouri jobs, they clearly provide those jobs. U.S. farm exports reached an all-time high in 2010, amounting to more than $115 billion in sales. For every $1 billion worth of agricultural exports, there's an estimated 8,000 jobs. And so these countries are waiting for agreements that will increase trade in soybeans and beef and corn, in pork and dairy products and processed food, in fact, in processed goods of all kinds. But we can't get to those markets until we pass these trade agreements. All of us are eager to work with the president and get that done. All of us are eager for him to send those trade agreements up. And you know, since these agreements were negotiated, others have negotiated agreements and launched them, and it may have been mentioned already this morning, but if it hasn't, it's important to understand that on July 1, the European Union trade agreement with South Korea went into place, and they had a 1-month, 38% increase year over year, the first month of that trade agreement. The Canadian-Colombia agreement went into place on August the 15th. And having been to Colombia and worked on this for some time, there is no question that there is a preference for our goods. But once they start buying these other products, then you have to convince them, no, you need to come back to the product you would have rather had to start with if that product would have had an even shot at the marketplace. Panama negotiating all kinds of work agreements and expansion agreements on the canal that we're disadvantaged in because we haven't passed that agreement. Let's get these 3 agreements done. Let's start creating the private sector jobs that these agreements clearly will lead to. As we have talked to the White House and the president about that, my good friend from Georgia, Johnny Isakson, has been in the middle of all those discussions. We know what can happen here, but for it to happen, we have to get these agreements sooner rather than later. Let's get them up here. Let's get them passed. Let's get them back in the hands of our new trading partners and see these jobs increase. And I'm pleased to recognize and encourage the ongoing efforts for this effort of my good friend, Mr. Isakson.